Tap on
sold on
record.
that.
We're recording now, by the way. I
Oh,
got
okay, that's fine. Whatever.
I got no
I assume
visuals. It's just a black screen, so when I render this in Sony Vegas, it's just straight a wave audio file.
let's put
But
some good shit in the background, like Dark Sun stuff.
well, I was thinking about that. I was thinking just I have Neverwinter Nights installed right now, and I was just thinking about just running gameplay over that, or just leaving it blank and keeping it audio.
Right.
Because people are going to when they click on it and watch it, they're going to just listen to it. I still
Good.
have
Yeah, that's why I like podcasts.
the Tism Basement podcast is at 91% rendered according to YouTube. I checked it 2 hours ago, so it's still not even done rendering on YouTube. I don't know
It's
what's
all,
going on
it's
with
all
the internet.
garbage. Yeah, it's all garbage. Everyone's on it now.
That's true. I like to
So,
stick to a very niche corner. 92% now.
mm, is that the
Anyways,
one from? What day would that one be from?
well, it was a podcast from me and Skull recorded it 2 weeks ago, and then I forgot to edit two segments out.
Okay.
One because he explicitly said he said he was just talking about trannies, but everything he said was literally strike against us. I was like, I'm just gonna just delete this one segment because
Yeah.
on the Tinsman Basement, it's easy to one person says the joke, the other one moves on from it. So
Yeah, and you can just listen for silences to know where the hell you're at.
yeah, so I just told him I was like, I'm cutting this segment out, and then he said some shit about somebody he didn't, that we didn't need out there.
Uh,
Yeah,
well, that's one nice thing about catching a live stream. You don't get the edits.
exactly. But also like since it was like just a podcast, it was off the cuff. But it was like when after the podcast, we both were like, yeah, we're cutting that shit. Say it first,
You
regret
have
it
to.
later. Anyways, Dark Sun. So what got you into Dark Sun? I know you just told me kinda.
Well, that's fine. Just playing through it this time, like in general, it was just the whole survival aspect. I've tried to do it before, but Dark Sun had all these rules built in, which I've already modified to kind of work for us a bit better. It had a lot of stuff that was tied to your constitution, and I wanted to spread out the saving throws a bit more.
Yeah.
So I made like starvation rules, sun rules, because again, the extreme heat plays in. They've been on some 120 Fahrenheit degree days, like very, very hot days in the desert. But they've also resulted in some funny times. Like, for instance, the one guy, I embedded a ruby in his chest, and he doesn't know how it happened, and he was keeping it from the rest of the group. And I'd been making them roll percentage chances every day to see if anybody noticed that he had a fucking ruby embedded in his chest. Nobody was making them until a day where it was really hot sun and a really high wind came up. They decided to hide out in the wagon. They're all chilling in the wagon, and sure as shit, one of them actually rolled the percentage chance. So then it resulted in this comical series of events where they were questioning him on it, but the dagger that he had was possessed, and he was trying to fight. It's kind of like a golem thing, almost the exact same thing as a golem thing, where he was obsessed with the dagger. He didn't want anyone to take it away from him. They all
Yeah.
had to pin him down and take it from him. And then they got the dagger from him because he rolled a 20 on his save. 20 is always a save on anything related to getting 20.
Yeah.
He makes a save, breaks the dagger's influence, unlike Golem. And then now he's curious too, because up until that point, everything had been a fog in his mind. Now he's curious too. So in the middle of this really hot, really windy day, four dudes stuck inside of a wagon because it's too hot to go anywhere and they couldn't see where they're going anywhere. We're trying to puzzle out how the hell to get this ruby out of the one guy's chest that he doesn't even know how it got there. And that was just one of, yeah, like it. I think it sounds fun. I think anybody would enjoy being part of that because the one guy tried to pry it out with a dagger, right? And then it blew him across the way because it's an artifact. So it just lightning bolted him. It almost killed him. They're like, okay, we won't try that route. So then they stopped trying to do that. So then they started examining the ruby, looking for markings. And then they tried to relate how the dagger was because the one guy took the dagger away from him. And I had the power for the dagger where if he throws it, it returns to his hand. So he had it in his thing, and then they went to bed. And then the next morning, the other guy had it in his hand. and they had tied his arms down so he couldn't even grab it, but there it was sitting in his belt. So that's how they learned that it was a dagger of retrieving. And then you kind of put that stuff in, like they all get artifacts this time too. That was something different I did as well.
I like the
Stingy with
deep.
artifacts usually.
I like that deep, heavy like mechanic roll. Like sometimes like players won't even know what they're rolling for. They're just rolling. Now it's like, all right, now you got to backtrack
Yes.
memory. Is there anything that could have happened that I forgot that would have led to mechanic rolls? And then it turns into a comical scene, like just like a Three Stooges type of, oh, let me try it. Oh nope, all right, let me try it. So I like that. I like that's
But yeah,
what draws me into like I like D&D. D&D got me into MMOs. MMOs kept me from continuing to try to do D&D. And then COVID hit, and then like two
MMOs.
two of the local stores around me just gave up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't make it an economy that actively prevents you from having customers that need to talk to one another. It just doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
And doing it online is the same. Like we all go to my buddy's house, a couple guys drink beers, three of us smoke joints, break out the beer and joints, bullshit for the first half hour about the week, and then we jump in. Sometimes it's 40 minutes, sometimes we get immediately into it. All depends. We're just there to have a good time. We usually make progress. We're 22 sessions into the current Dark Sun. I have
Hell yeah.
them all listed out and what we did, and I've been keeping track so I can go to any session and know what they did.
Well,
Again,
see,
something I've never done.
yeah, I was gonna ask. So what? So you only have one game going on for you, like
At the
personally?
moment.
Because
Yeah, at the moment I am DMing just one. At one point in time I was DMing two groups at once that were actively working against each other on the same world.
see,
That was
I've
fun.
I've read stories like that on Reddit and like 4chan and shit, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I was like, too
It
bad
was.
I can't do that on like an MMO because the closest group versus group that you can get is obviously player versus player. It's no work to a goal to thwart the, you know, to thwart the other team
Especially
without
since the
them knowing.
noobs won.
Yeah.
Where the other it was a group of vets versus a group of noobs. The group of noobs actually won against the group of vets. Now, granted, they outnumbered them by one dude. It was all in the up and up. They'd been working against each other for literally months, and it all culminated in this one battle. And they knew the stakes from level one was, I'm going to make you two work against each other to a certain point. At this point, you will all fight one another. Whoever dies, dies forever. No resurrections, no nothing. This is high stakes shit. Not only do you win, you kind of get a say in where the world goes from that point too,
Yeah, I was
which is
gonna
something I always try
say
to do.
that's why I like
That's where they differ from MMO. You actually make a difference in a D&D game, where an MMO has to be made to appeal to everybody. You can't do far-reaching consequences for one person, usually.
yeah, like the only MMOs that could do that are like the those hardcore player versus player ones, which name two
Eve,
that are popular still to this day. None, because they're all in private servers.
only Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eve's the
Oh,
only
well,
one
yeah,
that comes to
Eve.
mind.
Yeah, okay, I take that back. Eve, Elite Dangerous. Uh, Eve, Elite Dangerous. There's a couple of Albion Online, RuneScape, but RuneScape isn't hardcore PvP. Like there is a few games, but
No,
I'm saying like I guess if you take Conan Exiles and then made instead of 100 players a server, it's like 500. I'm talking a game like that, like hardcore build, die, lose everything, but it's still an MMO. Yeah, I like D&D
but again,
because
you only do much.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I like D&D because it takes that and then makes it open ended and forever existing. Like you can role play
I
in
had a
those
group of
games,
players wipe
but D&D you have more freedom, description, and permanence in the universe. That's what I
I
want
had a
to do.
group of players wipe out a country once, an entire country.
How they do
Now
it?
they didn't kill every single man, woman, and child. Um, so I'd like to tell you the history of most of this stuff, so I'll just try to be brief. There was a group of characters that were under the command of Lancelot. Lancelot's one of the biggest, most far-reaching characters on the world of Perennia that we made. He had the highest long-lasting consequences. The country of Lanton decided to try and steal stuff from his country, which he called the Sanctuary. Um, when they tried to assassinate his son, he lost his shit. gathered up every single acquaintance he'd ever made from level 1, anyone who owed him a favor, anyone he'd ever done anything for, from the lowest to the highest. Got them all to help him build a whole bunch of bombs. And then he had a guy that could teleport. And then he paid a wizard that owed him a bunch of favors to teleport him to each of the capital cities. And he basically teleported to each capital city, dropped a bomb, sent his assassin to kill everybody else, and wiped out all the leadership in every single capital in one day. So then the entire country fell apart, and then they all had to emigrate from there. So then he changed the whole economic aspect of that entire side of the world. And for the next 100 years, it remained unpopulated.
That's pretty sick. Like,
Yeah, man, I'll fuck around.
and I
And I
can
mean, it was
only
all
imagine
legit.
all the work and all the sessions that had to go into like all these minute details, side characters, adventures.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm
that's when
saying.
you smoke a joint and talk. It's all good fun. I
Yeah.
mean, you're overemphasizing a bit on the work part, right?
Well,
Because
yeah.
it's not like I had every single capital city worked out. I had a bunch of dots on the map. I said, these are the names of the places. This is what I want to do. I more look for a reason to do something than to not do something. And then, because if you can do something, usually you've already bypassed all the reasons not to. And he had so much. He was level 17, level 18, level 19. That was the area he was in, almost the top of the scale for 20. Like 20 is where the cap is normally. Yes, you can go to epic levels, but we didn't own that book at the time. So yeah, he was ending, right? And I wanted them to do their thing. So he wiped out Lantern, and he told me the future for the sanctuary, and then we let those characters go away. And he made the next set of characters 100 years later,
That's pretty cool.
and with his son David. And David took the sanctuary more inward. So then another 100, no, not, I think 50 years passed at that point. And then a whole new group of characters who had never even met the people that had, like, they'd never met the actual player that did Lancelot. They'd never met any of the, can't remember the names right now. I have them all written down. Some Duke, all those different guys. They never met them, but they were in the world that had Lantern been destroyed. There was also a couple other minor things. They'd messed around in Galdrin, and no one had messed in the desert, and Bretonnia was. I stole a lot of names from different things. So Bretonnia, yes, I stole it from Warhammer,
Well, I
and
think
I'm
that's
unapologetic.
D&D in a nutshell is just taking ideas
It
and
is.
twisting, taking ideas from established things and twisting them. Because our idea of like, what was it, like elves and shit like that, like, was from Lord of the Rings or even some other
It's all
fictional
from
major
fairy
works.
tales.
Yeah, I was in fictional
It's in
works
the name.
from way back then. So it's like, yeah, it's all borrowed, but people change it and make it better and take an idea and then sometimes they'll flip, turn it upside down and then just break it off piece by piece to deliver it a different way. But
Funny you say that, because that's what the second group did. I made them sanctuarians, so they were citizens of the country that that guy set up before he retired that character. And in that 150 years, they become super insular. And Ash, the leader of that, a half dragon, made the sanctuary into a country that had land. He went and conquered places. Totally flipped it on his lid, just like what you said. Took the country and then all of a sudden conquered a bunch of land and made what used to be just a colony that wanted to hide from the world into a country that, like, almost like the America of that world.
yeah,
Only he conquered instead of found empty land, but still.
that's
Yeah.
pretty sick, man. But
And I have maps for all this stuff, so I could show them to you.
see, like the visuals, the art, the figures and stuff is cool and all. Like I've seen people during COVID build the most insane, you know, sessions. Like they take a pool table and then turn it to like a wooden table, and then they turn it to a puzzle piece so they can put figures and mix land on shit on there. I seen stuff like that, but my
Well,
thing into D&D, like the interest is the description, the words, the just talking and like role playing. Actually, just talking, talk play. I guess I don't know what you'd call that because you'll be.
I've played both versions of those. I built a metal table with a TV underneath and glass on top with a grid in it,
Yeah, I've seen that
or
too.
alternative without. So I built one of those. We played on one of those. Problem with them is you spend so much time on the minutiae of tactics that the role playing gets lost. And it depends on your audience a lot. Guys I were playing with, half of the guys wanted to do the RP. The other half of the guys wanted to move a certain amount of squares, do their two actions, very like computer game role play to their mind, and their characters about making better combat killers. There was no
Yeah.
charisma checks kind of deal. You know where I'm going, right? So this time around, it's totally different. I've done 5% of the work that I did for when I was doing the computer screen thing. Like, not even shitting you. I do so
Yeah,
much
you
less
said
work.
low tech is you said this current
Yeah,
time is
it's
low tech as possible.
so much fun, man. I've hand drawn a bunch of maps. I have map making programs I've spent hundreds of dollars on that use AutoCAD as the base. I can like the maps that I show you, I'm proud of. Like when I had time to do that shit, I like it. But like now, no, I'll just use the Dark Sun stuff. It's a setting that's got everything there. Everything's free online. I have them all downloaded. There's rich detail in it. They will tell you about characters and give you plot hooks with every character. So you can take it and run with it. That's how I made their current villain was. I just read about this chick named Kinira. She was a Templar. I tied her into another part of their quest where the Templar spy, and I made it her. And she ended up killing the two friends of the elf that joined the group. So he has a personal vendetta against her. And she's been screwing with the other group, and she knows where all the hidden slaves are. So they've been trying to frame her for murder. They can get rid of her for multiple reasons. But the people they're framing the murder on, they're doing it for the people that actually did the murder. The people that actually did the murder are the ones that run the city. It's just one big convoluted road of fun, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds. Well, see, it, it's it's the part that interests me, like the deep, just take like I say, just taking MMO and then going, just taking the roof off it and the walls. Just take the roof and the walls down and just say run wild. That's what I view D&D as, something to be immersed in, but also play it like a game. So it'd be like half role play, half combat killers, because that is part of it, is the game aspect. I don't know.
But it
I can't.
doesn't
I
need
could
to be
say
too
this is what I
tactical.
want to do, and then when I play, my mind will change based off experiences. That's how it always is. But
Gotcha. Looking for any maps I have, but most of them are in the format of the drawing program.
all right,
Huh,
yeah.
I have it.
Uh,
That's what
well,
I wanted to show you.
I see. I was looking at because I typed in D&D on Steam and seen a lot of games. Some of it was like the old what was that game that oh shit. It was like Baldur's Gate, but Divinity 2, or Divinity Original Sin 2. That game came out
Yeah,
like 2 years ago, and people took that kind of concept for a game, but made it to where it's for streaming and creating D&D videos or creating universes with characters. Like some of those programs, it's just drag drop, buy packs of assets, and then just drag drop on terrain you build with a map maker. I've seen stuff like that.
yep.
I
That's
was like,
Roll20.
that's what
Yeah,
Roll
that's
Twenty
Roll20
is.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Roll20 uses the things you just described. You take any sort of JPEG, plop it as the background, and move tokens around, and there's your dungeon. There's so many resources now. You don't have to do a whole lot of work and just internet searches and using tokens.
Yeah,
Again,
I've
it's
seen low
extra work.
tech not Skype, Discord versions where people would excuse me, they would get those basic like free programs, and then all they do is just run a whole bunch of JPEGs. Like they just take a whole bunch of JPEGs and drop them into GIMP, flatten the image, and then upload it to their background, and then they move around transparent JPEGs for their characters and stuff, and it looks like an old shitty cartoon in the end, or like an animation where you're just dragging and bouncing characters around. But I've seen it super low
Yeah,
tech
and
like
that
that too. You just drag and dropping pictures. That's it.
yeah, Roll20 allows your characters to drag and drop their own guy. And then they take it a step further too, where you can actually do vision arcs and light sources and shit like that if you want to put a bunch of effort in. But you don't
Yeah.
need to. Have fun.
That's true. Like you don't need to put a tons of fucking effort. Have fun. That is, it's like I'm trying to like tamper what I want to do, because I don't know. I don't know what I want to do until I play and actually get a real game in. I played 3 games, and they all ended 3 hours into character creation and explaining it to people that had no idea what tabletop was, and then that was the end of the session, and then all three sessions disbanded.
Well,
So
does the idea of making a character appeal to you just to get you in the idea of what's happening?
yeah,
Because that
like
itself could be a little show thing.
yeah, if doing a character once I once I understand your world a little bit more, that would be super fun. I know it takes a while to do that. How do you make your characters?
Yeah, not really. We usually will take a session to roll stats and discuss. Then the next session, giving out proficiencies and figuring out weapons, whether you're going to do armor, specific questions to the class that they want to be. Because it should be an experience, because you only do it once, ideally.
Yeah, that's true.
I just sent you a picture. You open that. That's the very first Bretonnia map I ever made,
Open with
if it opens.
Firefox. Okay,
It's
so that's
just
how you make your stuff. Well, you have a program that
a,
helps.
yeah, it's called Pro Fantasy Creator. To make a really nice, easy to use system. And you've seen a ton of maps made with it, whether you've realized it or not, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I started recognizing as I saw it.
I was going to say this looks familiar to quite a few very indie RPGs slash, you know, survival games I've played. I like how just the colors alone are bright, so it feels like old retro, like no old school. I like that. Not high tech. I've seen like I like flat maps like these, like 2 dimensional. I've seen. I don't like the shadows and shit in the height maps. It's like a big old flat one like this. I'm gonna when I upload the recording, I'll include these pictures.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm doing you the next one that I made about 4 years later. This was the one that was used quite often. And when I would do this, if you could picture, the TV screen would be down there, and players would be looking on, and the world map would come up just as you saw. And each one of those country names, you could then click that name, it would go to the regional. And once you're in the regional, you could click the town. Every single large town, except in the desert in the top right-hand corner, and Lanton, which would be the bottom right-hand corner, which you can see exists in that picture I sent you. In the next picture I send you, you'll see there's nothing on the map.
Oh,
Because,
and
yeah,
that was the destroyed country.
that was the destroyed country. So that's the one in the bottom right-hand corner.
All right.
Trying to print off the other one. Uh, and then I actually did one more after that, but it remained unfinished. I haven't revisited that world because I'm on
So
Dark
how
Side.
you had it on your TV, you would click on just the red names, which would be like Cranbrook, Logan's Run, and stuff like that, and it would just load a separate map for that area.
Correct.
Oh, that
Well, actually, the
is.
bigger ones. So country, like Lanton, Bretonnia, you'd click
Ah, okay.
those. Then when those would come up, you get a zoom in of that area. And then from there, you'd click on the actual city names.
Okay, so it went even bigger and okay. You said you
Finished
sent the.
beta.
I'm waiting for the second
Yeah,
PDF or pictures.
yeah, should be getting it right now.
Pulling that up.
And then that's the next version of Pro Fantasy. So they upgraded, so I had to make a new map because the new software was beautiful.
Oh,
You
see,
see a little bit.
they do shadows right with this one. Okay, shadows ain't bad with
They have
this.
like better textures, the whole bit. So if you look at those valleys in the middle, those were all that I made first. When myself and my old lady, we'd been dating a couple of years, we decided to go to Jasper sometime. As I was driving through the Jasper hills, you basically see mountains on both sides of you and beautiful waterways, and trees, and the whole shit like that. I wanted to do that as my first one. So that'd be about 2009, 2008, somewhere around then. I built that way back then. So that was where it all started, with just those few little valleys, and I'll tell you that story some other time. And then from there, I did that map that you have in your hands now. But the original valley map I did with pen and paper, and it's gone. I had like 5 connected sheets.
You can zoom in really far with this.
Yep, the detail is amazing.
Even if
And
you
you
get in the pixel art, it's still very detailed. Like when you get down to the tiny pixels when you zoom in too far, it just becomes beautiful pixel art. What is the name of this program?
pro fantasy.
Profit. Huh. Oh shit. If I was still playing a MMO, I was supposed to help create lore for it. I would have definitely used that.
Oh, it's been used for some video games themselves, if you recognize the texture. But also that map that I gave you, you'll see in the top right-hand corner between the desert and Bretonnia, there's now a waterway there. That's the newest version. The very last thing the group of the Sanctuarians that I talked about did, the great grandson of Lancelot, I wanted to do something different again. So I had this big end game quest where they'd start at level 1 and there would be a crisis. And they have a whole book in 3.5 for different crises that you can throw at your whole world, and
Oh.
it'll actually destroy the world or it'll do far-reaching consequences. So the one I picked was called Leviathan. So the
Ooh.
Leviathan is in the middle of that Bretonian, that waterway there. That is actually what used to be the tallest mountain in the whole world. And part of the lore is they pissed off the Titans, and when the Titans, or they pissed off the gods with the Titans, the gods took revenge by taking that large mountain, lifting it up, spinning it over, and shoving it back down into the earth, so that everything that was on top of the mountain now became kind of like hell. And the middle of that waterway is actually a swirling whirlpool that leads to the abyss.
Ooh.
So buried around it is this giant snake Leviathan. And the whole point of it was there was a cult of the Leviathan. From the very beginning, they've heard about this cult. That they didn't have a clue about it until about level 7 or 8, that it was something they should be worried about. Fast forward to the end, heroes end up winning. They kill the Leviathan, but not before the Leviathan changes the face of the whole place. So the map I'm about to give you is out of date. It's the Bretonnia Overland Map, and it has all the stuff that was destroyed. That would include just below Port Hope and between Wheelton, the Hearthrish, Sean's Rest, a few of those places. They'll be absolutely destroyed. Again, far-reaching consequences by players.
That's I like that. Like, I really have nothing else to add to that. Like D&D is definitely interesting. Pathfinder, some of the stories or just, a recollection of someone's campaign, some of that captured my attention too. But I want a little bit more world like immersion and role play. I like gaming.
Pathfinder is a
I heard it's
player-accepted mod of 3.5. It's nothing special. It's like a Chev and Hell's a fucking stone. Whatever the flip side of Chev is. But yeah, they're like the same thing with just slightly different things between them, but they're the same vehicle essentially.
oh, okay. Just one spun off one direction and the other one just kept going forward.
Well, rules wise, I have to admit the Pathfinder's better. Like they take a couple redundancies that 3.5 do and do them better. Like 3.5 has hide and move silently. Pathfinder takes those and makes them into stealth. So Pathfinder is the streamlined version of 3.5. 3.5 is the streamlined version of second. Fifth is the streamlined version of everything, and we don't talk about fourth.
Why? What's wrong with fourth?
Fourth is a video game, not an RPG. It is World of Warcraft if it was given Dungeons and Dragons form, which doesn't make it bad, but it doesn't make it comparable to me to the other versions. And I gave fourth the old college try. I enjoyed it tactics wise. Can't knock it tactics wise. It's very fast. You can do several battles in a night,
We have
but the variety is lacking. The fact that
goodbye.
a wizard doesn't have a spell book, he doesn't have like 30 spells to choose from, is bullshit. That's
Wait,
the whole
what?
fucking.
What? So they only got like what 5 or 10 or whatever the MMO slots allow?
You're generous with the 10. Bless your heart for the 10. No,
Oh,
it's like three.
7. Oh shit.
And three things to choose between for one spell. And yes, there were ways to modify them, but it was the whole less is more. I read their whole reasoning for doing the way they did because I was very jacked for fourth. I played 3.5 to death at that point, and I played it even more to death in the last 6 years. But for fourth, I was pretty jacked. And basically, they said They were tired of people saying, I swing my sword, or I swing my sword twice, or I do a whirly do with my sword. They wanted every single thing that a character does to be something. And to their credit, in fourth, it's like that. There is no real swing your sword. There is vertical slash or crippling strike. Everything has a name, and everything kind of does something. So in that regard, it's kind of cool. You're always doing something neat. And if you look at World of Warcraft, that's kind of how it works too, right? You don't really have a whole lot of smacky. You have the cool spells that you're waiting for cooldowns.
Yeah.
Speaking of, fourth edition has cooldowns,
Okay.
something D&D doesn't really do. D&D is more like 3 times a day. Choose them, whatever your encounter is. Again, they also did encounters a little bit differently. Everything about it was just a little bit different. But it all depends what you're looking for. And that was not what I was looking for.
I got you.
You should have the Bretonnia map.
All right. Okay.
Yep. And then I'll do a city after that. The biggest city I ever made.
All right. So here we go. Bretonia.pd. Open with first. Oh, all water. All that water. So, Bretonia Overland World, is that like the description for the whole map?
Yeah, Bretonnia Overland is the Bretonian country's overland view.
Okay.
Doesn't look like my biggest one's gonna work. I don't think I have the symbol set I use. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And every single town in this campaign would have a purpose, or it would just be a place potentially someone would explore if they thought they needed to.
I would say roughly 75% of the towns, if you were to zoom into the town and then you click the name of the town, they'll bring up a Microsoft document. Document, it tells you how many people are there, what kind of, their economy, their soldiery, shit like that. Anything you'd need to know if a group visited, like how much money they could sell stuff for, what they could actually buy in that town, because that's kind of important, especially for later when they start selling, like kill a whole bunch of shit in a dungeon. They've got thousands of gold pieces worth of stuff. They need to be able to go to a place that can handle that. They're not going to be able to sell 300 gold pieces to a guy on the side of the road. What I like about games like Skyrim, they do that really well. So there's all that info, and then generally there's 2 taverns or 2 places to get missions from, and then I have a couple quick mission descriptions for each one. Because my goal was to make a world that I could sell this eventually. The dreams of a 20-year-old. But yeah, I thought I could
gotcha.
do a good enough job with it where a guy would buy Perennia. And they bought Perennia, they wouldn't just be buying a map, they'd be buying a whole adventure world that was interactive. As you've seen the resolution, you could zoom
Yeah,
into the street view of anything if you had the right kind of setup.
yeah, this is crazy detailed.
I'm going to send you another map that's got X's on it. That's just because I don't own those symbol sets anymore. You can get the view. They're basically just towers. And there's some people.
I'm pretty sure there's something we could do with it. It's like you can turn this into something. Like get one of those RPG like Divinity 2 and just make custom maps for a game something like that. Or Neverwinter Nights.
I just keep playing in my own world. I think
Yeah,
it's
true
great.
that. Oh, I was just
So
saying
much rich
if
lore.
you wanted to spread it around somehow, there had to have been a way.
Well, I could just have a bunch of people. Another pipe dream was have the world going and have a bunch of trusted DMs, 5 or 6, run one for each country, and run one group in each country, and have them working against each other, but not knowing they're working against each other. One
Oh,
of the examples that I really liked about the other one was I said all the missions in these 3 countries, so they had their own starting countries. I said you're not allowed to get missions from each other's starting countries. The other 3 countries are there, and if you get a mission before the other group, that mission's gone forever. So you got to kind of choose. So luckily they both chose different countries for the first places they emigrated to. And then from there, Bretonia was left in the middle. Neither one started from Bretonia, and neither one went there first. So then they were fighting over missions in Bretonia, and they actually missed each other in a village by 1 week. Like they would have just randomly met in that village by 1 freaking week. And how I kept track was a buddy of mine works at equipment place, and he had like a shitload of calendars. So I'd have a calendar, and one calendar was for one group, and one calendar was for the other group, and then I just kept track of where they were at each time. I try to keep them within a few weeks of each other.
Oh,
At
that's
one
pretty
point,
cool.
one group got about 4 months ahead, so I had to actually put the brakes on them. And we just like played other games until the other group caught up.
Oh
Usually
shit.
bogged down around Christmas.
That's pretty sick
And then,
though. Like I like clever fun use because like
and
I
there's a lot.
listen to stories mostly, you know. So that's where most of my D&D info comes from because I'm a user. But
Not really. It's not the easiest game to get into. Having a dependable group, it's tough. It
yeah,
really is.
that's why
Everybody has commitments.
I just listen to other people's sessions on YouTube, and a lot of them are pretty interesting. And the more they role play, the better I understand their universe. Because I'm not there, I'm not super immersed into it. But
I
so
sent you the last picture. That'd be Port Kettlewater. I just want to get this out of the way.
oh, you're good.
Um, so it's all there, and then part that's not filled in, it's a major military port. It's the most southernmost part of the Bretonnian map, and it hugs the only way into that bay. So that big blank area down there would actually be full of armies training, all the guys to man the boats, all that type of shit.
Okay,
That's all
yeah,
I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. Oh, this
Yeah,
is
so
like
that's it for maps.
that's just your universe you put together.
Yep. Over the course of be a good 14 years invested in it from various groups, not all at once. Group of good 5 solid years.
Why don't
As
you
the first,
continue making maps and add into your universe?
I, I'm burnt out on it, honestly.
I got you.
It's such a, I did that as a job because I ran a shop there for the last 8 years. Only this year did I really switch careers while being the same thing. And part of that was AutoCAD. And the map making program is AutoCAD. I was very burnt out on AutoCAD for a very long time. It doesn't mean I won't. I mean, it's not like the computer stuff goes bad. Just I might have to redo some symbols, that's all.
I got you. Yeah, I was just wondering because it's like you're still playing the game, you're still using it. No, it would have been. I wouldn't have asked if you didn't use this, but I don't know the specific
We're
lore in
going
the
back
world
there.
yet, so not yet, at least.
I wanted to change from everything, including my own shit. I just wanted to try somewhere different. But me and my buddies have already discussed, we're like, well, if this was your world, we could do this and this. I'm like, well, doesn't mean that this desert couldn't be the desert on my world because it's the only country that hasn't been done yet. And it's just 7 city-states. So I could add 7 states and say it was my world the whole time, just a section of it. And the people, because most of the population is slaves, they can't just go on vacation. They never ever got past it to see there was the rest of the world. D&D, you can do almost anything.
Yeah,
There's
true.
actually a map that has every single D&D map from second and third edition as if it was all on one globe. Some guy actually took the time to kind of like fit them all together where they would logically be.
Oh, that's
That's
pretty
that's
cool.
cool. You got like the Dragonlance map right beside the Forgotten Realms map. Forgotten Realms map is huge. Like Toril doesn't end. I think you just keep going east on every map that I ever saw. So it's like you could do anything on the ass end. It could be the ass end uh, of Dark Sun.
But okay, so you got this universe built. Uh, what kind of world? Are there any like world-ending creatures, like any beings that can just fuck everybody up if there wasn't any powerful people that existed to protect people from monsters like that?
Yep. There's
So,
been one that's actually hung around on every single edition of Dungeons and Dragons that's ever been, to my knowledge. So it starts at Dun- like Dungeons and Dragons, the very first one in the 80s, had a monster called a Tarrasque. Tarrasque has been in every edition of D&D I've seen since then. It's always been the most badass fuck you up monster that they could possibly come up with for the rules set at the time. It had an answer to everything, and all your best shit even would work. For instance, Vorpal weapons. Vorpal weapon in D&D means something that cuts the head off on a critical roll.
yeah.
Off with the head, instant kill, blah. Tarrasque is immune to Vorpal weapons. Well, kind of makes the best thing not so good right then. So the DM obviously had enough and he wanted to make something that would be the last thing that they fought. So in answer to your question, yes, the Tarrasque.
That's pretty sick. Like I look. Okay, so here's how I start trying to do research into D&D monsters and things that interest me is just looking at the wallpapers made of things in universe. So I found quite a few like cosmic horror, like I would say like Lovecraftian. I guess I would say
Mm.
Leviathan and esoteric beings. And I was just wondering, like in your world, just what existed like that out there? Just unimaginable horrors or just very powerful beings that didn't give a damn about humans or humanoids.
Well, they killed most of them, right? The last big thing that they did, again, I'd kind of like to do a few shows if this want to
Oh
keep
yeah,
doing this. We could do like easily 20 shows on just the history of Perennia from all the different shit that players have done. Very last thing that was done that we left off on, without getting too detailed, one of the player characters from Ash's arc ends up going evil. So he's a good guy all the way till the end, and then he becomes a lich. Do you know what a lich is?
oh yeah, it's
Lich,
yeah,
undead sorcerer.
yeah,
You'd like it. So yeah, so he becomes an undead sorcerer. He tried to do it the good way, but I was going to be a dick and make it the bad way because I wanted to do something different. I'll just do that to them sometimes. Just take their best laid plans and let them pull them off, but flip them around so that they don't always pull off what they want because that's more fun.
yeah.
Anywho, he becomes a bad guy. He actually became the villain for the last group of characters that adventured there, and he was sending hordes of undead into the world. Ash and the rest of them still weak off the Leviathan because this happens quite quickly after the Leviathan because it basically wrecks so much Bretonnia. Like most of its infrastructure was in the area that was killed off. Not to mention that was the main trade route between the east and the west, and it's now there's a giant river in there. So yeah, so that interferes with that. So it's a very poor world coming out of a giant war with this undead army about to invade, and then that's kind of where we left off. Yeah, there's that kind of thing. As for giant monsters, I don't put too much thought into that because I like to make it tailored to the group that goes there.
I
But if I were
got
to
you.
do that idea that I told you about, I would make a whole bunch of like Skyrim style. I would find a bunch of spots, I would make those dungeons, and when you clicked on that dungeon, it would be like, don't look at this unless you're the DM, and then it would go from there. It would just give you a quick view of what the dungeon should be, quick map, ideal monsters of the ideal challenge rating, and go from there. And then if I wanted to make a boss, then I would actually say the boss for this dungeon should be this, and most of the minions should be this. But I don't like telling people what to do in general, and telling them what to put in a dungeon's a bit much. I think I'd say it's supposed to be a hard dungeon, go hard.
Yeah.
Although some people need that. Some people do need that. Like they don't know. Like they need to have a list of things that they can choose from because the amount of stuff you can do in D&D is almost overwhelming. You can go ahead and write D&D monster in the Google search bar, and you'll just get shitloads, like 1001 monsters. They have appendixes, they have all the different settings, all the
Yeah.
different settings have their own monsters,
As I
and those
told
different
you,
settings have their own take on them.
I found like Leviathan slash like esoteric monsters just looking them up specifically. So yeah, like I just
Yeah,
see the more I talk about like universes and ideas, I would love just to anybody that has their own D&D universe they're playing in or just has, you know, like just wants to talk about the universe they're in, like just start look, just
they
have
do
people.
it, but it seems like go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say just have them talk, like just describe their universe and what's going on in it. Kind of like a New Center 11 type of deal, but it's people in their own D&D worlds and run it like a
Yeah,
show or a
it's what
podcast.
I want this to be. Honestly, I'd love it if we could catch up and I could give you a play-by-play like what I was doing in that Discord, kind of type it out what I was doing there for a little bit for a
Yeah.
couple Tuesdays. Yeah, like I would love to do that every week or every couple weeks, more ideally, just to give it a bit of time in between and just say, yeah, this is what the characters did this week, and then take it one step further and maybe have uh, like votes or something. So we could do like a premiere and have the people watch it that are interested, all five of them, I'm sure, and they could vote on what kind of magic item
Yeah.
that the group could get, right? Because I like to do that too. I've tailor-made everything about this. So where all the work was, I was putting in tactics and maps before. Now I'm putting it into the characters themselves and thinking of interesting things like Mitra. I took Mitra and plucked his eye out and ruined his skin so that he lost a permanent point of charisma. And most people in social encounters don't want to talk to him, so it's hampered him because he styled himself as a ladies' man. He was trying to hit on chicks all the time. And now, because he's kind of back to himself, he's still hitting on chicks, only he's got one eye and his skin looks like Deadpool. Essentially, that's what I did to him. Only on the
Right.
front half of him, though. If you see him from the back half, he's totally normal. Because basically, I took him, this would be a story in itself, but either way, um, he had a bad reason to leave the town he left. I said, if you go back to that, you scorned a woman. You don't even know what you're in for. Like, I got to do this. We got to help out Boulder. Boulder's the other guy. He's like, we got to do the right thing. He's like, I'll be careful. No one will see me. I'm like, okay, then. Yeah. So as soon as he got there, they knew who he was, and I knew that he knew who he was because I'd already determined that he was going to get busted. So I separated him from the group, kidnapped him, got the group to follow and watch. So he had witnesses to this humiliation that he was about to take. So the chick was pissed because a bunch of shit that I'll go into when I tell the actual story. But she straps him down. Uh, he lips her off. She plucks his eyeball out, just like in Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And then she casts what's called it's called a blade barrier, but a modified blade barrier. I want to fuck with you version of the blade barrier, where it only cuts off the top couple millimeters of the top half of his skin, and this includes the top of his dick. So these blades were all just a millimeter above his skin, and then they were slowly coming down. And then I didn't want to kill him. I just wanted him to pass out. So he did saves to not scream. So she was pushing them deeper and deeper, and he was making his saving throws until I had determined that if he failed the saving throw, that meant he was going to pass out and she would get some satisfaction. Because he did not scream at all the whole time, and she's a cunt, and she wanted him to scream. She got frustrated and left. Because he toughed it out, I gave him extra experience points. And again, the player that I did this to has my utmost respect. That's why I did it to him. There is another player in that group that if I did this to him, he would have a hissy fit, he would never talk to me again, and he would walk out. Know this because he has almost done it to me before. So the guy that I did this to, like, and you don't even know what he's gonna get. I'm gonna give him fucking fake eyeball that's like Cyclops from X-Men. It's gonna let him see through walls. It's gonna let him see in the dark. I'm gonna reward him for going through with this because he's been playing it well. Because like I said, I wanted to do role playing this time. So when we've been getting in situations, he's been working it in. Like when he talks to me, he'll put one hand over his left eye if he's talking in character,
Okay.
just to do that. Like he's that kind of guy. That's why I did it to him. He's been going well with it, and he's been using his skin to his advantage, like wearing hoods and stuff, and being in the back corner of bars. And he's trying not to look people in the face because he was embarrassed for a while. But after he got over it, he owned it. Because in game time, it's been about 3 months. So to me, he's a pretty strong dude. Like most of the people are slaves on this country. Like, or in Dark Sun, 95% of the people are slaves. They're all ruled over by a very small set of nobility, divvied out between 7 city-states by immortal rulers. Again, we'll talk about Dark Sun if we want to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Dark Sun
Well.
itself is a couple shows. Like the Dark Sun history is fascinating. You want to know who the first people were? Halflings. Imagine a fucking world where the guy was like, "I'll make halflings the first people." Okay, then. Usually humans.
Yeah.
Make humans, and then off the humans, they make all the other races. This one they did halflings, and it gets cooler from there.
It's neither. Oh shit. My computer's breaking. Give me 1 second.
Yeah,
Uh. I I pressed the button on a minimized game and it popped up and then it opened up Xbox Windows like record, the Xbox Windows dashboard. So I was trying to figure out what the fuck happened there. But anyways, so for
no worries.
just the game in general, like I, I mean, I'm trying to think of things to just ask about or I'm not looking anything up and showing a podcast, so I have to do this a little bit different. Like cults, since we
Well, this
talked
is
about,
just our preliminary talk anyway.
yeah, anyway, yeah, that's true. So
Just
like,
write down questions.
yeah,
Next
well,
time.
yeah, that could be for them. next show I'll know what to ask. Because I didn't want to look in a whole bunch of stuff and then not have anything to talk about. So for cults in your specific world, what kind of cults exist, or is it the same cults that exist for like the gods or demons or whatever?
So that was another thing about this world. There were no gods. My concept was there is the one over God, and he's a big old dickhead, and he's probably a lot like me. So anyway, this over God had enough of all the other gods because he kept screwing around and screwing shit up. So he said, "Fuck all of you," and he banished them. He became the over God. When you make a priest on my world, you pick an alignment and you get all your power from one source. Anybody who's a cultist on my world would worship a demon, of which I do actually keep. There are named demons in D&D that have lasted from edition to edition, and I have made a characters fuck with the same demon in different groups. The one guy fucked with a demon that I had like back in the 90s, and then I carried that demon over until because we were still buddies in our 20s.
Yeah.
So in our 20s, I brought that demon back just to screw with him again, and fuck, we had a good laugh when he realized who it was. Because I mean, we hadn't talked about that demon since we were like 16 or 17, and here we were like 24, 25 now, just laughing about it. Those
Yeah,
fucking women
it's pretty
ruined the whole
funny.
thing.
So yeah, because I'm just thinking of just like there's just so many possibilities in my experience with roleplay, just on any kind of level, specifically PvP MMOs would be that's my experience with roleplay. I should say was PvP MMOs. I never got tabletop, but from my understanding, it's not much different because you are you're doing an action and then your words, like your I guess your play part of your role would be just describing your action in a more in a gorier way, just to give it some flair.
We could
Or
do it right now. Okay, so, well, here you go, Sark. You are with the adventuring party. Your mission right now is you're trying to frame somebody. You right now are trying to throw all the attention to the merchant houses. At the beginning of the day, you have 2 4-hour increments to do 2 things in. If we were already playing, you'd have an idea of what you should do, but I'll just tell you your options that you've already learned. You could start gathering info on another merchant house, thus throwing attention off, or you could go and find out information on Kanira, who you're trying to do it anyway with, or you're trying to frame anyway, or you could go talk to someone else on another lead for it. And that's what I would say to you. And then what would you do? And you tell me. And then I tell you what happens. And that's role playing right there.
okay,
That fast, that easy. Now, if you do something that involves a challenge, so say you decide, okay, what I want to do is I want to bribe one of the merchant house staff to give me any juicy gossip on that particular merchant house. Okay, cool. So you say, I want to go there around lunchtime when one of them's on lunch, maybe offer to buy them lunch. And then from there, I should be able to weasel some information out of them. They say, cool, that's reasonable. So you go there. I'll say 60% chance that someone is off by themselves enough that it wouldn't look too suspicious. So you have a couple dice, 2d10. One d10 will have tens on it, and the other d10 will have ones on it. Are you familiar with that system? Percentile dice system?
since no, well, I like I said, I haven't played, so no, I'm supposed to say no.
Okay, no, it's fine. So yeah, those are the 2 dice. So when you roll those 2 dice, the tens will be the tens, and the ones will be the ones. So in this case, we'll say you rolled a 4 on like 40 on the ones, and a 1 on the other dice. So you rolled a 41. That's below 60. So that means you make the check. They say, oh yeah, you see a young elf girl over by herself. Looks like she's just got small bun wrapped up in a piece of cloth. Not the best lunch. You're like, okay, I want to talk to her. Or you could just say, fuck this elf bitch, I don't want to talk to her. In this case, we'll say you went ahead with it. So you're like, yeah, okay, that's perfect. That's what I want. So you walk over to her. So this is where your statistics come into play. Everybody has 6 statistics: your strength, your dex, your con, your intelligence, your wisdom, your charisma. In this case, charisma is leading the way because you want to talk to this girl. Charisma is how gregarious you are, that type of thing. We'll say you made a talker because you're a bit of a talker guy yourself, right? Sorcerers goes along with the territory. So let's say you have a 16 charisma, a rather high charisma. Because on Dark Sun, you actually have higher stats than normal. So now you take a 20-sided dice and say, this is a pretty basic charisma check. I don't see any need to penalize you right now. If anything, I'm going to give you a bonus because you're offering to buy her lunch and she's hungry and she doesn't get that offer very often. So this means you take your 16, you take your +1 that I just gave you, that turns it into 17. Now you take your 20-sided dice, you roll this 20-sided dice. If you get 17 itself or lower, that means you pass the check. Pretty good chances of passing, right?
Why does it have to be
So,
lower to pass, or lower to pass?
so
I
that
thought.
there's some sort of system. You can be high or low, right? But in this case, because your statistics go between 5 and 20, you want to be good, you make that the high end of it. The higher statistic is, the easier it is to low below it, thus making the task easier. Let's say you weren't a charismatic guy and you put your lowest stat of 10 in it. Then you'd have to get, in this case, 11 or lower, because it gave you a +1 on that d20. That cuts your odds into 50% from what would be far better than that, the 17 or lower. When you build your character, you're not going to have a whole bunch of 17s. Odds are good you might have an 18 or a 19. Fuck, you might even get a 20. Very rare. But 18 or 19, a couple 15s, maybe a 14 and a 13. And then modifiers come in there. I give you a +1 this time. What if it was a guy who had lunch and I told you he looked irritated and you went up to him? I'd say, well, that guy does not want to do what you want to do, and you're now trying to talk someone into doing something they don't want to do. I'm going to give you a -2 modifier. Well, then that number takes a 2-point penalty, and now you're rolling 11 or lower if he was 13. Or if you were 11, then you'd be rolling 9 or lower, making it a little bit harder to pull off. All you're trying to do is make a scale to test against so you can tell if you actually accomplish something.
I'm starting to understand a little bit, because
We'll go back.
I had the impression when
Go
it
ahead.
came to like the dice, like when you're doing a roll check, uh,
So
you
we'll,
know,
we'll continue on with our example. So you pass the check. You roll like a 5. Like, yeah, oh yeah, easily. She says, I'd love to go to lunch with you. So you guys walk around, you find a nice restaurant. Sometimes if I want to be a dick, I might make you roll a percentile to see if you can find a restaurant. But a lot of times when I hurry this shit along, everybody has stuff they want to do. You always have to remember that. There's 4 other people that want to do shit. So you take her to lunch. Again, to rush it along, I just say, what are the main points you want to hit in your conversation? And is there anything you want to do that you think can modify it? So you say, well, it's a rather pretty elf girl, and I'm a rather good looking human man, so I might hit on her a little bit, like I'll flirt with her a little bit. And really, I just want to hit her up for information. I'm willing to tell her that I'll pay for this information. Right there, you've given me 3 decent things to go off of. Now, on my end, stuff I don't tell you is I need to determine whether she wants to go ahead with this or not. So I like to keep it pretty easy. So I'm going to have a 50% chance she wants to go with it or not. And as complicated as I'm going to get is if she doesn't want to go ahead with it, I'm going to give you a -2 on your check. That's as complicated as it needs to get. So I roll the dice. I decide, nah, she wants to be a bit of a bitch about it. She likes the lunch, but she doesn't want to rat out her boss. So you now take your charisma, which we've already established is 17. We take -2. And now you're down to 15. I think we established 17. Anyway, whatever it was, it's -2 to it now, making the check harder to achieve. You roll the dice, you roll a 16, you fail the check. Pay for her lunch, but alas, you don't learn the information you want. And now it's on to what do you want to do for the second half of your day. There you go. We just
yeah.
role played something out.
Say, like Micah said, with my interpretation of the dice, based off of the stuff I've seen, may not have paid attention to it well enough. But if I, the DM says like, all right, to pass the, to stand on your tippy toes and look through the window without being spotted, you got to roll like a 17 or higher. And I thought that's kind of how that played out. Like you just got
Yep.
got a number based off of something, and if you roll that number or
Yes.
higher,
Yep.
you pass.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's the way 3.5 is. See, like
Okay.
I was saying, everything was a streamlined version of everything else in D&D Second Edition, and this is my gripe with it too. I not alone. If you want to do an ability check, you have to get low. If you want to hit something, you have to get high. If you want to make a saving check, you have to get high. So there
What?
are different circumstances where you need to get below a number and above a number. What 3.0 and 3.5 changed was everything is high. High is always good.
That's what I thought was high was good when it came to checks, or when you had to roll for anything, high was good. That's my
So,
understanding.
so if we were to take that example I just did, I can actually just convert it to 3.5 right now. Okay, cool. Now it becomes a bluff check. We'll say you're about level 4, and most you could have 7, 8. Okay, so you're going to roll a d20 with a plus 10 on it, because we'll say that you are all about the talking, so you're good at your bluff check. The plus 10, again, I'll have done those modifiers I just did. I'll have decided she was going to be uncooperative on a 50% chance. That means you need a 15 or higher. You roll your d20, you add your plus 10 to it. That means you need 5 or higher to make the check.
Okay.
Almost the reverse of what you just did, right?
Yeah.
Because you needed 15 or lower before. Now you need 5 or higher.
So it was the same concept. It was just lower.
Just
Okay.
reversed. Exactly.
Yeah, got
So
you
that's
now.
what second does differently. And it's needlessly complicated, and it's the number one thing that my players
See,
complain about this system.
I
And I
would
don't blame
say,
them.
yeah, I would have said like roleplay would have died there, because the roleplay I see would be, it's kind of, it's exactly what you said, but it'd be like, all right, so what do you do? Well, I would go talk, I would go distract so and, or go talk to so and so to distract, and then it'd be, if you had the
Yeah.
information of what you
So
were
in
trying to
second
distract
edition,
from. Well, no, I'm just
yeah, in
saying,
the second edition, you don't have skills. No, you're saying the right thing. I'm saying there's two different ways to do it again.
gotcha.
Like what you just said about kind of distract that guy. If it was 3.5, you'd use a bluff check. Or, yeah, no, probably bluff check, I'd say. In second edition, you can actually choose. You could use your intelligence to see if you were smart enough to come up with a good way to distract them, or you could use your dexterity to sneak up to him to distract him. Because there is no skills in it. Everything is based off those 6 stats. That's it. Well, in 3.5, you have about 20 to 30 different skills to divvy out skill points to, which don't exist in second either. What you'll find is 3.0 is better than second. I'm not playing it second because it's better. I'm playing it because it's different.
Yeah, I
And
gotcha.
I do enjoy the love put into it more. The second edition spells are far more fun. Like third is so tactical that if I had to pick a way that I wanted everything to be as fair as possible, I would always know where everybody was standing, a somewhat dependable metric, three's the way I'd go. If I didn't give a fuck and want to have a good time and go with something that's fairly low key, second, all the way. Once you get used to rolling under and rolling above, it becomes easy. I only have to tell like one guy over and over now what it is.
That's
And
good.
add even more complication to it. If you roll the stat itself, that's like rolling a 20, and it's the best possible result you could get. Remember how I gave you that penalty and told you needed a 15? If
Yeah.
you'd actually rolled a 15, you'd have automatically made that check, usually with something good on my sense. So let's say that you'd made that check on the last roll that I said you'd failed instead, and you rolled the 15, not only would I have given you the information, I'd have said, oh yeah, she hates her boss so much she's willing to do it for free. She'll just tell you some juicy gossip for free. That's what you can get out of rolling really well on the stats. And that's why I like the dice. They can really make or break something.
Yeah, like, and that intrigues me a lot too. I like that. Now that I'm understanding a little bit better, the second edition seems like there would be more room for what I would be looking for when it came to like roleplay. Where it'd be like, all right, if I'm going to distract them, what am I going to go say to them, and what am I doing? It'd just be a quick 2 sentences, and then you move on, but you're still playing your role. So I would like a small scale, like, being able to describe what am I doing after my actions succeed. If it fails, the DM decides how they fail.
That plays into combat really well. In
Yeah.
3.0 and 3.5, a combat round is considered 6 seconds. You get 2 actions in 6 seconds broken up into very specific things that you can do. In D&D second edition, your round is like a minute. You like do some jumping jacks, throw your sword at them, because the people that came up with this weren't really about the tactical aspects of combat. That kind of came upon them as the game got more and more uh,
Yeah.
familiar, and you could see that in the rules editions. That's why fourth is the way it is. It just got more and more tactical until they're like, whoa, 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 take a step back, and then they did fifth, which from what I've heard, is pretty damn good. I've never played it, but I've heard nothing but good stuff about it, except on the love front. The settings are generic because they're fucking terrified to offend. If you go to, and you could do this right now, if you go to Wizards of the Coast and you look at Dark Sun, because you could still buy these books to this day. You can buy all the second edition books that Wizards of the Coast put out for Dark Sun. They have an apology paragraph on there. It's like, we are sorry for the depictions of slavery and ethnic blah 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 blah. And it's like a whole paragraph of apology. Fucking retarded.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
We are sorry. Man,
that
so
just
with
yeah, there's just no love.
it
Yeah, the
seems like it.
tactics. But yeah, like having a minute to describe, and that's what the one character you guys are going to learn these. If we end up doing this, I also have a feel if people actually are interested in it too, they'll have their favorite people in the group too.
Yeah.
I have a feeling most of the people are going to like the same people I do. Well, I don't dislike anyone because I wouldn't play a game with someone I disliked. The only thing I dislike is this person's inability to relax and let go. His character is his life, and
Oh.
he can't. It's very hard to deal with sometimes. And I love the guy that he's a fucking great guy. Like, and they're probably gonna listen to these later, so I don't want it to sound like I'm throwing one of my best friends under the bus. But and I've said this to him too. I'm like, you're too tactical for this version. Let go. You're very powerful. I've already given you a very good artifact. You have some of the best stats in the game. You're a fucking ranger in second edition. That's something about second edition too. You have to qualify to be uh, certain
Hey, wait,
classes.
qualify?
You
What do
can't
you
just
mean?
say I want that. You can't just be a ranger. You have to roll stats good enough to become a ranger. That's
Ah.
that's a big change from 3.0 too. Where 3.0, there were qualifiers, but they were like one stat fuck all qualifiers. This one's like, to be a ranger, you have to have at least two 15s and two 16s or something along those lines. Let's talk off the top of my ass, but it's four very high stats to even qualify. The hardest one period to qualify for is the Paladin because you have to have a 17. So people understand how hard that is to get. The most basic rules for rolling D&D characters that they anticipate you will use is rolling 3 six-sided dice once and adding them all together. That means you have to roll, well, everyone's played Yahtzee and all that type of game. 2 sixes and a 5. Fucking hard to do. You need to get 117 to qualify to be a paladin, and you need 2 more high stats to do it after that.
Oh
So
shit.
I'm telling this guy, you're a ranger. You've qualified to be a ranger, one of the best, most stacked classes in that whole edition. And he's still concerned he's going to die when I have him fighting stuff that does a d6 -1 damage. That's where we left off in our last game. He was concerned because I ambushed him. He started going in on the rules because he couldn't do what he wanted. Then he got frustrated because I pointed out that in 3.0, he still couldn't do what he wanted to do. Also pointed out it was a fucking ambush. The point is that you can't do what you want to do. The point is to take you out of your comfort zone. You're an archer. I put a guy right in your face. You
Yeah,
can't
like
use your bow. I wanted it to be hard. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of an ambush if you just shot them all to death, now would it? But that's his mindset. That's just one character. And then there's the guy whose eyes I plucked out, who never complained once. He almost died. Never complained once. Laughs about it now. That guy, again, that's Mitra. I think he'll be one of the faves. Um,
well, the guy
yeah,
that takes his
all this
character
stuff.
seriously, I think has the right mindset of D&D though. The point is immersion. Like, well, it seems like they're not having too much fun, or they could be having a lot of
Oh,
fun.
he's having fun.
Okay, so he's having
He's the
fun.
most
So
dedicated one.
yeah, I was gonna say it seems like he's like that one guy that's like, all I wouldn't say the coward, but is the clutch. You know what I mean? When they need to be, it's like from the stories I read when it came to people like that, they were always like that clutch guy. Like when you need them to
He
come,
is. It's
when you need them to
oh,
come out of pocket, they will, and then because of them, everyone comes to glory.
he has literally saved the group quite a few times. His last big character was a Githzeri monk who had an AC of 37. I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but in 3.0, usually the highest AC most normal people can achieve, and this is with extra spells. It just wasn't he wasn't just walking around with a 37. He was walking around with like a 29, and then he could do a bunch of buffs and get up to 37. Point was he was unhittable. There were a couple times where other people would get hit and would be taken out, and he was the healer, and he would basically like those martial arts masters that walk through the middle of guys and they're all swinging at him and everybody misses him just by millimeters, but he barely slows his pace. That
Yeah.
was this character. He put so much effort. He knew everything he needed to get with 3.0 to make that guy. And the main reason he's struggling right now is he's so far out of his comfort zone of knowing the rules that he feels like he's going to lose someone that he's already gotten attached to and he's only played with us for like a dozen sessions. So it's cool. And he is so dedicated. He built a scale drawing of the Argosy that he wants to build. An Argosy is a giant wagon, probably the size of a house, that they use to transport about 40 or 50 slaves at a time. So it's this giant wooden box, essentially, with bars around it, and an upper deck with crossbows on it, and it's pulled by two giant mechalots. Mechalots are giant insectoid. They're basically the cows of the desert, giant insectoid cows. These things pull this giant argosy across the desert. He drew everything in it, all to scale, front and side elevation views. So I give him 500 experience points because if you're gonna, he did this all in his own time, just for fun. He's that
That
type of guy.
is dedication, and that's like
He is.
someone that would have be a person to have like a great neither like a brotherly bond type of storyline or like a rivalry type of storyline with, just because the dedication and the passion for the character he's attached to. See, this shit is getting me hyped to to get deeper into the game.
Well, what's funny too is he thinks he's paying for it. See, I like it. If he's gonna put all this effort into it, I'm gonna make him get all this stuff. And I've already decided this, and it'll happen after he hears this. But I've already decided he's gonna get it just because of the dedication alone. But he's gonna have to rob it off of someone else, and he's not even gonna know he has it until they take it. And he'll probably figure it out once he sees the layout is exactly what he drew. But that's the way to reward good characters like that because he thinks he's going
Yeah.
to have to go through all this effort to get something that, in my eyes, he's already earned. So I'm still going to make him jump through all the hoops, and he's still going to have all this extra money that he's been saving up for this thing that he's not going to have to use. But he's cool too. Like he wants to get a wife for his character. I can count on one hand the amount of players I've had, and I've had over a dozen that want to have a family in this game, right? It's always
Yeah.
been about hack and slash.
They
But he
want
wants a family
permanence and
and everything.
persistence, and that's
Yeah.
why I want to move from a persistent video game to a persistent game that if I wanted to, I could probably open the world up like 10 years in the future. 10 years in real life in that universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I want to go next
I'd
when it
open.
comes to RPGs and shit.
A funny example of continuity on Perennia is that last group where that monk was part of. They had it was a pixie, not a pixie. The hell is it, Brad? Some fairy creature. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but he was all about pretending to be something else because he had shape change. So he was basically the man of 1,000 faces in the group, but he was like a fairy creature. Anyway, his whole shtick at the end was he wanted to have a chain of restaurants. So I was like, okay, because everybody got there kind of like they fought the Leviathan and they won. And I was like, what do you want to do after it's all done? So each guy told me what he wanted to do after he was done. So the one guy, the monk guy that I talked about, he wanted to live forever and become the librarian of a mobile library on the back of a flying turtle called the Zaratan,
Yeah.
which is similar to Terry Pratchett's turtle. So we went through an adventure. He captured the Zaratan, made a deal with the Zaratan, built his library on the Zaratan, and now to this day on my world, he flies around and brings knowledge to all the villages on the outskirts, kind of like the bookmobile. So that's what he did. And then the other guy, he made a chain of restaurants. So he wanted to have one restaurant in each country. So that was his thing. You can go to his chain of restaurants no matter where you go. And then
Huh.
again, he's immortal because he's a fairy creature. That 3 of the 4 group ended up being immortal. Only one of them wanted to die. That was the thief.
Why do you want to die?
He wanted an ending. He was like, I want to make. He's like, I want to become the leader of a thieves guild, and I want to make them. And I can't remember the name. I have this all written down somewhere. Like, I want to name them this, and I want to have them be the personal assassins for the sanctuary after I die. Like, if we ever play again, then I'll make one of my ancestors, or I'll start over. Everybody's different with D&D. That same guy that I just talked about swung the entire group for a loop on their sixth adventure on Dark Sun. He totally 180'd on their plan within 10 minutes of coming up with the plan over a throwaway speech that I did. I just had to laugh about it, like, because he's an ex-slave, right? And they went to
Yeah.
this slave village, and I'll go into this more in depth if we talk about it. But the slave village had a leader, and I had this leader do what I called an inspirational speech before they were going to go out and fight these people that wanted to take them slaves again. So I did a little bit of a speech because I try to do it in character with voices and stuff. So I did this little speech. Then they go through with it, and they get back, and the group's like, "Okay, we're going to help the other one, right?" He's like, "Nope." And they're like, "What?" Like, "No, I'm going to stay with the slave people." They're like, "What?" But they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." And that was until he did the speech. But you know what? I'm a slave. And I got to say, I like the cut of his jib. So yeah, I want to go with him. So then there was this thing where they were all arguing for like a good 15 minutes. And I was just laughing my ass off in my head. I can't do it out loud because it would distract them. So finally, they came to an accord. And they were like, "Okay, well, you can be a citizen of Saltview, but we're still helping the merchant house make this place." He's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just like as long as you know that I'm not going to help you gather influence with the merchants over Saltview. I'm a Saltview citizen now. I want to be part of the slave commune." They're like, "Okay." And yeah, it's great. That same guy is the one I put the ruby in his chest. Again, they had to come up with a deal because they're like, "Well, we can't trust you if you have this jewel in your chest." He's like, "Well, I guess we're gonna have to go along with that, aren't we?" It's been great. And they found out that El Daryl actually has a secret boss that they never knew about. They found that out about 5 sessions ago. That was interesting as well.
Who's that?
Again, so El Daryl, there's four people in the party. There's Mitra, El Daryl, um, Muad'Dib, and Boulder. So Boulder is the guy with the ruby in his chest. Muad'Dib is the guy that I was talking about who's very dedicated. Mitra is the guy whose eyes I plucked out. And the halfling of the group, which is called the original people. And the halflings are known for being cannibals on this world now. They've totally degenerated from their founding father status. He is El Daryl. So yeah, it's been great. So he's a druid and he has a druid boss, but his
Okay.
boss doesn't know that he's actually working for one of the Dragon State King people. So he's actually working for the enemy, but he has no idea he's working for the enemy because the boss that he reports to has no idea he's working for the enemy. So it's been pretty funny. And I'm obviously the only one who knows the truth. So he's been secretly reporting what they've been doing, but he thinks he's been doing it just because he works for the druids and they want to keep tabs on everybody. But in actuality, he is the reason that the people in Tyr knew that they were coming to Tyr, but he doesn't know that yet. I'm eventually going to let the whole group found out that he's the leak. He's the reason that these bad guys have been knowing what they've been doing this whole time.
That'd be a good turn.
It was, and again, it happened on a hot day when they were hiding from the sun in the wagon.
Oh,
I
so
just
okay.
because he snuck out the night before they were going to leave, and I had the thief in the group, the guy with like Boulder, the guy with a ruby, who's a mole. I had Boulder wake up because he's a light sleeper because he actually can't sleep. He is actually always tired because the dagger doesn't allow him to sleep because it saps his life energy. So
Oh
he's a
shit.
light sleeper as it is. Yeah, that's the price he pays for having a powerful dagger. Every single one of their artifacts has a price to it. His is he's always tired. And this detrimentally affects him. If he misses even 4 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, he then starts to take penalties on everything he does. Or anyone else would have an 8-hour grace period. The price that Muad'Dib pays for his gloves is he's always hungry. So he can't miss a meal, cannot miss one meal every day, or he's already one step to being hungrier, and therefore one step closer to going crazy and trying to murder everybody. So they all have these prices.
See, I wouldn't take it.
Anyway,
I
Boulder
wouldn't take
followed
it.
him. Yeah, you should see what you get for it. I'll explain that too. But so anyway, Boulder follows Eldarrell as Eldarrell is not a fucking thief and he is a druid, tries to sneak out, makes a little bit of a clatter. So I had Boulder witness him reporting to his boss, but Eldero doesn't know that Boulder saw him. So so then that happens. Then they all left. So they got stuck. Again, it was really hot and a whole lot of sand. So they couldn't see where they were going. They were on their way to Tyr. So Boulder's like, text me, because I love the age of texting. I wish we had texting more in the 2000s on my other groups. That is one way that you can relate information to a single player without alerting the group, especially when it makes it more interesting. But anyway, he texts me, I'm going to tell them about Eldero. So he tells them about Eldero, and then they catch Eldero in a lie. They're like, you didn't leave last night. He's like, no, I was sleeping all night. And this is literally what he said to everybody's face. And then Boulder's like, no, man, I saw you. And he looks over at me. He's like, yeah, he followed you. No, so I skipped one part. In order for him to wake up too, there had to be a percentage chance. I made it a fairly low chance, a 30% chance. And Boulder rolled 29 on his check. So it wasn't just an arbitrary, I wanted to screw that guy. I let random chance determine whether he would be followed to that meeting. And random
Ah.
chance determined that he was followed, and then actual role play went from there. So now they're all a little wary of him, but they let it go because they couldn't actually prove he'd done anything wrong reporting to his boss. But he also wouldn't tell them who the boss was. So it was pretty tense there because Muad'Dib is like the no nonsense dedicated guy. And he's like, I don't want to leak in this boat. You better fucking tell us what's going on. Like they were very right in each other's face. And they've all been buddies for like a decade. Like I'm kind of the outsider in this. They all went to high school together. I just moved here 8 years ago. So yeah, oh man, it was such a good experience.
See,
And the guy who got busted is not good at talking.
I like the fact that interplayer roleplay could lead places also, or become
It does,
something
as long
that
as
the
it's not
DM
hurt feelings.
decides. Yeah, as long as it don't hurt feelings, and then the DM just takes details that are just made up on the spot, and if you forget about them, but the DM don't, you could fuck yourself in the future. I like that.
It's oodles of fun. But sorry, I gotta go now. I actually
You're
skipped
good,
dinner for
man.
this.
It's
Um,
all good. Almost hour and a half. I don't know what to call this, but we'll have more, and then we'll figure out where we're there. But there will be some
oh, it's
eventual D and
Sorcerer's
D.
Dungeon.
We're gonna go through a dungeon.
No, call it Sorcerer's Dungeon.
Sorcerer's Dungeon. Yeah, we'll see. Like I like
Huh?
the
Yeah,
concept
whatever you
of
want.
I like the concept of having people talk about what goes on in their D&D universe. Like they come in, describe it, and then after that they update or send the updates. And fucking I don't know, we'll see where we go. I like D&D talk though. I'm excited. But you go eat
Fuck
dinner.
yeah.
This is a good
Okay,
first attempt.
I agree.
Yeah,
You have a great night, man.
you too. Peace out, man.